Hello once again, and welcome to the Prince Magnum channel, where hot rodding and romance do coexist. I'm your host, Prince Magnum, and welcome to Do-It-Yourself Budget Hot Rodding and the video footage that came from the Shay's Angels Car Show of 2018. The time code is pretty accurate, and this took place in Cadet, Missouri, which is a small town not too far away from Potosi, Missouri. This was a big time first for a lot of things for us here on the Prince Magnum channel. First thing that we got to say right out of the gate, this is the first time I've ever done a car show at a drive-in movie theater. There's not too many of those around, and later on in the evening I got to watch Smokey and the Bandit in a way that I believe that if you've never experienced it, you have been missing out. I got to watch Smokey and the Bandit on in a drive-in movie theater. There is no experience like that. That was awesome. I want to thank you all so much for that wonderful experience. Now watching Smokey and the Bandit at home will never be the same again. Along with that, this was an amazing car show all the way around. I've seen a lot of amazing vehicles out there for the very first time, and meeting some of the owners of those vehicles for the very first time. So this was a new experience. Nothing like it. And everyone there, including Shay's Angels, was very accepting of the Prince Magnum channel. Let's talk about Shay's Angels. Shay's Angels is a non-profit organization that all the proceeds go to suicide prevention. Now, I don't know enough about their backstory, how they came into being or anything like that, but I can tell you that suicide prevention, there's not enough focus on that in today's world. So Shay's Angels, I want to thank you all so much, because it was the very first time for the Prince Magnum channel to get to work as closely as we did in this car show, trying to help people come out there, raise money for suicide prevention. This was the first time for us to ever be as involved as we were for this show. I mean, yeah, you guys still did a lot of the footwork, but you guys were very accepting of us wanting to be there, and kind of let us go out there and kind of advertise that we were going to be there. And which brings me to the biggest first that I ever got to experience at any car show. This was the first time that so many of you in the Maverick Nation attended a car show where I was at, showing your support of not only the cause that the Prince Magnum channel was behind, but the Prince Magnum channel itself. This was a big time first. The Maverick Nation was definitely in force at Shay's Angels car show this day. I mean, there was no experience like it. There were so many of you that came out. So many of you that I was able to hug, shake your hands, knuckle bump, high five, whatever it was. And then there were so many of you that enjoyed getting to see Project Spirit in person for the very first time. This was awesome, awesome, awesome. Along with this, again, another big first was, as I was talking to many people in the Maverick Nation, I guess you could say the Maverick Nation grew and grew almost exponentially at this car show. It should be noted that as I was walking around with the camera, there was quite a few people that started saying, hey, you know, are you that guy who runs the YouTube channel that's out here? Yeah. And they started asking questions, and I started telling them about the Prince Magnum channel. One of the issues that I ran into, and I wouldn't even really call this an issue, it was just kind of a challenge, I guess you could say. You'll notice that the camera fades in and fades out. Well, that's because I can't film and talk at the same time. It's very difficult for me. I'm just not that talented. I'm sorry. But to meet so many people, and then to tell them about the Prince Magnum channel, and to get them to subscribe, and of course it was just a great time to watch the Maverick Nation grow the way that it did, and in part to so many of you in the Maverick Nation that was already there. So thank you all so much. It's you guys that, how many times I gotta say it, it's the Maverick Nation that makes the Prince Magnum channel awesome like it is. All right, now again, there was a lot of rides out there that I did also know. Believe it or not, one of the biggest firsts that I had was I got to kind of hang out with the Ford guys, really. I've always been more of a GM kind of guy, and having a Maverick, even though it's a Ford product, you don't exactly kind of fit in, you know. It's not a Mustang, and it's not a muscle car of the 60s, so you don't really fit in, you know, even though it's a Ford. Well, this was the first time that the Ford guys really kind of brought me in. That was exciting. The 70s were obviously well represented, besides having Project Spirit there. So I got to hang out with all the guys that brought cars of the 70s. But the Ford guys were really accepting this particular car show, which was a very, very new experience for me. As a matter of fact, as I was talking with some of the Ford guys, one of the things that should come up right away is some of them were Mustang guys, and they immediately said, "Will you drive a Maverick? Well, at least we know one of us here is secure in his manhood." That is the first time I've ever heard that joke. That was a new experience for me. Those guys were awesome. And I even got to tell them how one time someone mistaked Project Spirit for a Ford Pinto. And they're like, "Man, them are fighting words." And I laughed. I said, "But the Pinto's cool." I said, "Not back in the day, it wasn't. It was a horror, you know, no one liked the Pinto back in the day. But today, yeah, it's a cool car." So we all had a big laugh about it. It was a lot of fun. And again, it was really nice to see the 70s so well represented. You know, again, it was a great time, and there was so many of you out there at this car show that were so accepting. And of course, the Maverick Nation being in force. You know, Princess Faye would have loved to have been at this car show, but she was unable to. She was stuck at work. And, you know, so it was kind of a letdown. We really wanted to show Project Lena this day, but it was just not possible. And, you know, we just had a great time. You know, I know Princess Faye would have been, you know, if she's seen how many late 70s Trans Ams, like from the movie Smokey and the Bandit, that were there, I know she would have just been, you know, she'd have been on cloud nine. She actually likes that particular car. That's one of her favorites. That and that Ranchero that was back there, she would have went nuts for. Again, there was a lot of people who were kind enough to also wave at the camera. We had a lot of camera hams. Of course, I was egging them on as well. Again, it was a great time for everybody who was there. So much so that really at this point, the best thing that I could do is kind of shut up and let the cars do the talking. So from here, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'll just jump in here in a little bit to remind y'all who the host is. again, I want to take a moment and thank everybody who was there at the car show, including all of the members of the Maverick Nation who were there in force. Not only many of you just being there to spectate, but there was so many of you in the Maverick Nation that was there with your own projects. That is awesome. I want to thank you all so much for showing the Prince Magnum channel is still a force to be reckoned with, even here in St. Francis County, and now even Washington County. Unfortunately, Project Spirit did not bring home another trophy. It just goes to show, if I want to bring home more trophies, I'm just going to have to put more work into the old girl. And that's perfectly fine by me. Again, I also want to take a moment and thank Shay's Angels for allowing the Prince Magnum channel to be a part of their car show and welcoming us with open arms the way that they did. It means so much to us here at HQ that you all allowed us to be a part of your show. Also want to take a moment and thank all the camera hams that waved at the camera, including that one lady who just she was so funny. I mean, you know, I'm like, wave at the camera, and I mean, she was just awesome. Again, there was a lot of amazing rides out there, a lot of gorgeous vehicles, engines of all sizes and shapes, which will bring us to the final scene of this video. As many of us were leaving, let me say up front that a lot of us decided to lay rubber as we were leaving. You know, it's a typical car show. There's going to be at least a few people that do. Well, there was a lot of country bumpkin types that decided with their, you know, their V8 powered pickup trucks or, you know, their classic cars or whatever, decided to lay some rubber. Well, Project Spirit was no exception to the rule, except that Project Spirit was kind of in a class of her own while doing so. I believe she was the only one with her original inline 6 that was laying rubber, just like the boys with the V8s, which was really cool. You know, and that's the big selling point for Project Spirit. We're talking her original inline 6, as I'm making this video, creeping up on 300,000 miles, all original. So to me, that is awesome, folks. You know, and again, if there's any selling point for Project Spirit, it's just the fact that there's so much of her that's still original. But again, if I want more trophies to add to her collection, I'm just going to have to put the work in. So, again, thank you everybody so much for an amazing time. And as usual, as we come to a close, be sure to follow me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter if you can. Since there's no Twitter face, you don't have to worry about it. As usual, get out there and work on a project. I don't care what it is, just do something with yourself. If you have a sweetheart, sweep them off their feet and do something special for them today. Maybe you might take them to a car show of all things, or you might take them to a drive-in movie theater. And, as always, for all of you out there, if no one out there has told you that they love you today, Prince Magnum does. God bless you, and have a happy 24. Thank you.
ass on down to Oshag Hennessy's office right now and tell him exactly what you did. Get out of my goddamn classroom before I break my foot off in your ass. Insubordinate and churlish.